Hi, folks. I'm Jessie Maltin, and I am going to be reading your questions and talking to the lovely cast. So first, I'm going to bring out James Roday. And he's going to introduce the beautiful ladies.
It's weird. They set up a little thing where we have like a little entrance. We make entrances. I'm delighted to have three members of our cast here this evening. Three incredibly talented ladies. We're just coming out. Great. First, Julianna Guill, who also produced this movie. Stephanie Beatriz. Sophia Del Pizzo.
So what'd you think? I think I'll be having nightmares for another couple of days. Thank you, my friend. Now, I got to speak to you recently, so I know that you're a horror junkie. But these folks may not. So why don't you tell them a little bit about your directing, but also making scary movies that you love? Use your mic.
Sure. I've been a horror geek since I was about 5 years old. My mother's allowed me to watch movies that I had no business watching at a very early age.
Perfect.
And the love just grew from there. Fascinated with monsters and makeup. I love being scared. And some of my favorite movies are horror movies, just straight up favorites.
Name some.
American Werewolf in London, saw it in theaters when I was 6. Yeah, give it up for movies, you guys. Give it up for movies that were made. Because they got made. I knew I wanted to direct from a very early age. The first film that I made took me about 8.5 years to get going because, it was about cannibals taking over a restaurant.
Of course it was.
It was tough to find the dough to make that movie. It took me a really long time. But I knew once I did that I was sort of done. I was pot committed. I wanted to make horror movies, and I wanted to make horror movies that had something to say and maybe, brought the genre back to the big boys table and give it a real seat.
Or girls.
Big people's
table.
The big people's table.
Oh, boy.
I've carefully planned like 7 faux pas.
Good, perfect.
Over the course of the evening. And I think this was an opportunity to sort of combine my love of horror and my love of filmmaking with, participating in a conversation that I think is really important to be a part of. And that's really what this movie is. Yeah.
It sure is. And you love to write and you love to direct, and you've even done that with Psych. A lot of people, I didn't know how much you'd written and directed there.
It was a great training ground. It was a beautiful job, and they let me do all kinds of crazy stuff, and I never had to ask for it, and it's a dream. It's just a dream job. And
it's a great show.
Psych. We love Psych.
Yeah,
give it up for
great.
TV shows, guys, that got made. Yeah.
And then you said, I need some badass witches.
I did.
You did.
I needed badass women across the boards, really. I felt to have any shot of pulling this off. And it started with this lady to my left. We started talking about this movie a while ago, ironically, before Harvey went down, before, Me Too, before Time's Up. And then all of this stuff happened, and the conversation started, and an opportunity presented itself, and we were like, that movie, the one that we've been kicking around, we need to dust it off, we need to figure it out, and we need to make it. And that's what
in under 4 weeks, we were making it, which was really an insane experience.
One of the craziest movie stories ever. It took me 8 years to make my first movie, and the second one got greenlit over a phone call. Yeah.
Thank you, Hulu.
Yeah, thank you, Blumhouse.
Thank you, Blumhouse.
Yes.
And Hulu, but Blumhouse. Thank you, Blumhouse.
Yeah, so we were off and running really fast, and then one by one, we these other incredibly talented ladies materialized, and it wasn't just in front of the camera.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty wonderful.
Yes.
Talk about materializing. No.
Yeah.
It's such a special thing when something you really love gets made, and it's made the way you want it to.
It's super rare, and when you can do it in 15 days for no money, you usually have a better chance of doing it.
Yeah.
Because people just generally care less about what you're up to.
I mean, Jimmy Simpson's always a good idea.
Yes.
There's never a bad time for Jimmy Simpson.
It's true.
Or rusted root jokes.
Yep.
Or any of the rest of it.
Yeah.
Ladies, hi. How did you get involved?
Well, I've known James a long time. We are very best friends, and we started working on this idea, kind of got pushed to the side a few years ago. I had a baby, things were busy, and then this opportunity came up, and like you said, we dusted it off. James and Todd went to write the script after it got greenlit, and then in 4 weeks, we were on set, essentially. It was absolutely wild. It was my first experience getting to produce a film, which was very exciting.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And really, the single greatest learning experience of my life. Also, the absolute greatest challenge, because I had a 8-month-old at the time, and I was still breastfeeding, and I was trying to pump on set. And
didn't you get a degree as well?
I did. I graduated from college. It took me 12 years. Thank you, Sophia. That's really nice. But, thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you did.
Thanks.
It's absolutely incredible.
She was just a joy. You both were. Everyone was. But
it was the best group of people and the most wonderful experience. And we got to bring so many people together that just ended up loving each other and making these 15 days magical, and really, I mean, literally magical and fun. And we were so lucky to all be involved. Truly, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, it was really
I'm extremely grateful. This is pure luck that I am involved. I was sleeping with Jimmi Simpson, and
Wise choice.
he then asked me to marry him, and I said yes. It would have been rude not to.
That's rude.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just so happened that
I forgot how funny you are. I kind of forgot, and I love being reminded.
A tremendous actor lesson.
And then James was like, I need a British girl. So it all worked out very well. And
We
cannot
got
believe.
so lucky.
No, honestly, I'm like, what am I doing here with like the amount of talent that is involved, not just on the screen. James worked very hard to make sure that there was a female crew behind the camera as well. The music, Morgan is her name? Yeah.
Morgan
fucking
Kibbe.
insane.
She's amazing.
Just everyone.
We had a lot of female department heads on this show, and
Yeah.
they were wonderful.
So to come here and have this as my first experience, I think has set the bar very high for working in America. But it was awesome. Great girls.
And we wanted Stephanie. We really wanted Stephanie, and she joined us.
James and I think you sent the script to me, and it was like very close to what we actually ended up shooting. There were some smallish changes, but that was what we shot.
We had no time to do anything.
I was late. I was late to my meeting with Stephanie. She was the only person I wanted to play this role, and I was mortified because I was so late to the meeting, and I thought for sure she was going to be like, "Nope."
He called me after he was
No,
mortified.
I didn't care. I mean, it was like, and that was right after NBC had picked up Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we were there. Thanks. And
TV
we were
shows.
New York TV shows, and we were in New York for TCAs, and we ended up having breakfast and talking about this, and it seemed very clear to me that the idea was, I don't know, it seemed very clear to me that there was like, my favorite kind of art is the art that like sort of slips in like social issues inside the entertainment, which I think is what really good art does best. It creates social change faster than any policy change can make that happen. You know, it's like those of us starting to talk about these things in our living rooms, and then in our work environments, and then in our friend groups and our community groups. That's what creates social change. And like, I could see it in the script immediately, and I was really excited about it. So I wanted to be a part of it from the get.
It's a really I know you don't like compliments. It's a really well-written script.
I think he can handle it.
You think?
It's fine.
But no, it's exciting when you watch a movie that is not only shot well and acted well and written well. It's everything all together. It's a wonderful thing for a viewer to have all of those pieces and to feel the passion that you all put into it, the crazy, crazy, bloody passion that you all put into it.
And James really drives that on set, and I think we all feel that as a director. He's so passionate. That's a great word, and so energetic, and he gets you so excited. And that's really what this movie was from top to bottom, was just being very excited to go to work.
About attacking Jimmy Simpson.
That's right.
Just
I
beating
loved
the
it.
crap out of him. Was that a preview to the wedding? That's exactly that.
It's like just feels
We're
like
all
a normal
coming.
Saturday night, you guys.
Oh man.
I've never
gonna
done
do a
one of
type
these
5 after
before. I'm
this.
so sorry.
You hired some crazy women. Good job.
Awesome.
See.
Names. Let's do it.
Sophia. Yes.
I'm Stephanie Beatriz.
Julianna Guill.
I'm James Roday, and that's Jessie Maltin.
Welcome to the
Hello. Welcome to SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
This is a Q&A.
It's 2022. Wait.
All right. From Bernice, have you found that awareness like this in Hollywood has changed your recent experiences?
I'm new here, so I think it will, though.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
I think I must have been very, very lucky because my experiences thus far, I mean, in the last, I would say, like 7 years, have been really healthy, supportive, and good from all sides. I haven't had a work experience in Los Angeles that has been tinged with, like, you know, anything untoward in this in the world of, you know, the film that we're talking about tonight. I mean, racially, that's another, like, a whole nother thing. And being a part of the LGBTQ community, that's another thing. But, like, for me, I've been really lucky to work with all genders of people that are really supportive and respectful. And I would count these people as those kinds of artists. But yeah, I mean, I haven't personally had anything happen like that, but.
Good. That's preferable. Yeah.
It's not just here, it needs to change either. I mean, I haven't
Oh,
had
it's-
experience of it here, but I have in London, and I never reported it. I got an email a week later saying this project has now been cancelled and the director is under investigation. And I felt awful for not being the one. And there were girls there much younger than me, and this was an Oscar-nominated director who was trying to shoot a promo for a charity. And to come out of that audition and be like, what the fuck just what just happened? And not, I told my agents, but we never took it any further. And then to know someone
That counts
did
as
that.
telling someone, by the way.
Well,
that 100% counts.
I guess to think of whichever girl went that far to complain to the charity, fucking good on you, because God knows what would have happened if he'd have got to actually making that. So it's not just here, sadly. So I'm hoping that it'll spread wide, the message.
Well, you've also, though, you've put it together in a way. You've got a horror movie, and the horror movie has a message, but that's not all the horror movie is. And that is the most palatable way to deliver something to someone, because they don't feel like they're being preached at. Nobody likes that. They just sort of go, oh, these women are taking over. This is nice. You know, it's the ideal way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I don't think anybody seeks out entertainment to be preached to, for sure. For me, on the horror side of things, I was really interested in the challenge of making a movie that went on for almost 45 minutes without telling you exactly what it was, and keeping an audience guessing, where they knew that things were going to be bad, but they didn't know exactly how. They didn't know what direction it was coming from, and how slow of a burn we could actually get away with before, you know, we let the cat out of the bag. So that's just pure, you know, genre histrionics and script structure that is really exciting to, you know, to attack and see if you can get away with.
You got away with it. But it is exciting. It's an exciting thing, again, when it's written well and done well, because then it feels like it's real. and that kind of a thing. You don't feel like they're drawing it out and you want to say, please, something happen. I would really like something to happen now. You know, if it's good enough and it can keep people on their, on their toes, then they're willing to take that slow burn.
I also love European horror, and I love just about everything from the 70s where they did that all the time. Mm-hmm. That was cinema for a while, where, people sat and talked for 15 minutes in one shot, and it was dope. And then something happened, Star Wars actually, and and cinema changed in a big way. Yes. And I think we've been trying to find the balance ever since. Yeah.
So you don't like Star Wars?
I think Star Wars is great, but it definitely a light came on and movies changed a lot, big time.
Do you guys have favorite horror films?
Quite like Sophie's Choice.
Okay. She's the best.
Perfect answer. Thank you.
Go ahead.
You know what I think? The one that really affected me because of how old I was and when it came out and how it was marketed was Blair Witch Project. Yeah. Because it was like I remember my sister and I staying up at night and like looking stuff up on our like AOL dial-up and stuff, and like
AOL is a computer thing that we used to have.
It was
ASL.
It was like it was a long time ago now, but it felt so real, and the stories we didn't know if it was real or not until we saw it in the theaters, and even then it was like, is this really real? Like I just loved the feeling of being so sucked into something that felt like it was real.
It was like a War of the Worlds for our generation.
Yeah.
You could never get away with that today.
You could never now.
Perfect
It was the
description
beginning
of
of
it,
the
though.
internet.
It really
You could
is.
never do it now.
I think my first horror thriller, really, I remember being in my childhood bedroom, and I had a TV, which was very cool. And my sister was in there with Holland Rudolph and Adele Mebane. And they had somehow procured The Shining. And I mean, I was like 7. That was very traumatizing. I dare say it set me on a path of not loving horror for much of my life. But I did come around. I've always gravitated towards thriller and psychological thriller. And then as James and I were talking about this film, actually a year before, because it was one of his favorite movies, but James loves the movie Raw. I don't know if anyone's in here has seen it. It's really pretty incredible. And so I watched that movie about 2 or 3 times before we shot this and while we were shooting this, and then again when we were editing, because I knew how much it inspired him, and I really just love that movie and the narrative and the storytelling through the thrill, and that it's so character driven was really appealing. So that's what
to your point, to use a genre movie and also have something to say, but not preach. I mean, it's a great case study for that, and I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, if you even sort of like this, you should definitely watch Raw.
That's the pull quote.
Yeah.
If you even sort of like this.
I rewatched Poltergeist recently. Let me tell you how effective. Come on, I have a fun Poltergeist fact actually. That you all really want to hear. The skulls at the end that come up from the water, real skeletons, cheaper than buying fake ones. Thank you.
Fun facts. Okay. Eddie has a question for Stephanie. How did you get involved in the project? Was it a big stretch to move away from comedy? So we know how you got involved.
Yeah,
but
this role is very comedic.
yes,
very comedic, and I was sort of a let loose. It was like, just try some things, which is great. That's always what you want to hear as an actor. You want to feel like you can explore and play and try things and fail. So yeah, I did. But I was interested in doing something that was the feel of was very, very different than the character that I play on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Because I think what happens to all of us is that someone sees you in something and then they just sort of say, "Oh, that's what she does," and I think that's because of. I mean, maybe it's always been that way, but to me, it feels like really strongly that reality television has made us sort of really believe that every character that we see on TV is exactly like that in real life. And so I was really excited to do something very, very different. And I was like thrilled to get the chance to just create it like basically from the ground up with James. It was really nice.
Yes, it is cool.
It was very cool.
You did a great job, and I'm glad that
She
you decided to
succeeded.
stretch.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I appreciate it, you guys.
Because
I love compliments.
You're definitely
Thank you so much.
an actor that likes compliment. What the? Sarah has a question for Sophia. Talk to us
We
about.
get to see the people who ask the questions.
No, we're
No,
not
it's
supposed
anonymous.
Oh, I like that.
That's what's
It's
scary
like
about
AA.
it.
We're not supposed to know.
What does Sarah want?
So is Sarah her real name? Wait, don't tell me. Okay. Got it.
Sarah's gonna
Didn't know the
kill
rules.
you
Didn't
when
know the
you
rules. I now know the rules. So it won't happen again. Okay.
Talk to us about being in a coven with this group of women. How did you bond before shooting? Did you kill anybody? It doesn't say that. Did you?
I properly spent some time with Jules. I think we went for a drink and some tacos.
They were delicious.
And I was absolutely terrified. I'm the new kid in town, and you know, I've kind of just started hanging out with James, and it was, I guess I met you at the reading.
I think so.
Yeah, but even then I was just absolutely bricking it. And same, it took me like literally half a day. Oh, no, I fell out of the trailer.
Oh yes, that
Yeah,
did
that
happen.
giant
really
bruise.
bad.
That was day one.
In
That was
front
dark day.
of everybody, which
Brilliantly
really
calculated
broke the
move.
ice. You're
She got all of our
welcome.
attention. We loved her.
So that was my intro, is making an ass out of myself. But you all were very sweet, and I felt like crying and running back to England. And I had a bruise.
so
that
glad
was
you didn't.
Insane. Yeah.
It really was a testament to your dance background, though, because if I had fallen the way you fell, I would have died.
Everyone was
You-
like, "You're so graceful."
No,
I
you
was
somehow
like,
managed to like twist or twirl so that you landed on like, you know, the meaty part of your behind,
Very
as
gnarly.
opposed
That
to your face.
was a gnarly bruise. I
It's
didn't
on my
see you go
Instagram.
down though. I also think
Caught
like,
it out of the corner of my
we
eye.
bonded though also because where was that mansion that was where was
Santa
it?
Clarita.
So we
Yeah.
would drive up there and spend most of the day out there, and it was kind of like a weird summer camp situation
Yeah,
because
that's
we
for
were
sure. Once we were there, we were there.
yeah, it wasn't. You were just on this like big ranch, and there was nowhere to go, and there was not, which was kind of great. There wasn't a lot of cell phone service, so we would talk to each other. We spent a lot of time just like hanging out and talking to each other about our lives and relationships and like thoughts and ideas and dreams, and it was very bonding. It was like summer camp. I've never been. But
And it
I
was
imagine
so
it's
hot.
kind of like that. And it
It
was
was
very
so
hot.
hot.
It was so hot. So we would bond about bitching about the weather.
I like that. We bonded through bitching. Question from Charles to Julianna. Talk to us about producing a project of this scope and working in something so timely for women.
Producing a project of this scope was a total dream. I feel like the last 10 years of my life, reading scripts and noting scripts led to this experience. And I didn't know how prepared I was for it. And I also had no idea how much I would learn. And it was very intimidating. And I was really lucky to be working with James and have him be so supportive and such a collaborative partner and include me in every single aspect of this production, so that not only did I get to produce it, but I really got to shadow him and the director's experience, which was just so different than the actor's experience. So what was it like? It was a dream, and I can't wait to do it again. And I really just loved it. In terms of making a project that is this timely, it feels like a real honor to get to participate in this conversation. And I am so glad that this conversation is happening. So to even be this small part of it feels like an experience I will never forget, and I'm very grateful for.
A lot of people don't understand producing because it sort of gets thrown around, but when you're really producing, you're in everything. You
are in everything. That's the truth. And I think definitely think they're all different kinds of ways to participate, and I got really lucky that I got to do all of them, and it was just awesome.
Were you craft services? Because that's a
Yes.
real producer.
Yes.
That's how you know.
No, we had great craft service. I would not take credit for that.
Lisa Jones Ritchie for all. How did you start your acting career?
Soph?
I was a ballet dancer, and I guess it got really hard. It was exhausting, and I kind of didn't get to live much of a life. So I thought, kind of acting is kind of the next best thing. And the first thing I ever did was make a short film that got optioned by Lionsgate and has never been made. So that like got me an agent, but we made that for nothing. And I had a friend come over from Italy to shoot it, and it was just this little cult following online for a little while, and without that little self-initiated bit of work, I don't know really if I'd be here, because that really helped me, because no one would look at me before I made that. So I hope that's helpful, maybe. Yeah.
I took a speech and debate class in 7th grade, and we had a play that we did. There was one play in the winter and one play in the spring, and I auditioned for the play in the spring, and I got a lead role, and it was the male villain. And I was devastated because I was like, well, I guess I'm a monster. And then it was like the most freeing experience I've ever had, because I wore this like top hat and a mustache, and it was wildly freeing, and I just got to disappear inside somebody else. And we did the play for our classmates at our whole school, and I could hear people laughing, and I was like, that's for me. That's mine. I need that forever. I don't want to do anything else. And so, yeah, it was just like, then I pursued it in high school, then college, and then I moved to New York, and then I moved to LA.
When I was in 4th grade, I did a very famous film called Math Mansion. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It was a local North Carolina production. It came out on VHS. I think I have the one copy they made. It was an educational video, and I had been doing musical theater as a kid and continued to do it through high school, but I really I got the on-set film bug with Math Mansion. And in high school, I lived about 3 hours from Wilmington, North Carolina, where they used to do a lot of TV. They did Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill, and I would get up in the morning before school, and I would drive to go in the room and go to an audition. And one day I got a co-star on this show called One Tree Hill, and I ended up, after a brief stint in college that was 3 months, moving to LA, and I worked at the Griddle Cafe on Sunset in Fairfax, and they served really big pancakes for 2 years. And the rest is sort of history. Got lucky enough to start auditioning, and it went from there.
I got pretty serious about acting in high school when I realized that I wasn't going to be big enough to play any sport professionally. Then I went to New York, and I studied theater, and I thought I was going to be a New York theater actor, and I thought that was pretty great. And then, on a whim, I auditioned for something called a pilot. I didn't know what a pilot was. I didn't know what a pilot meant.
That's why you got it.
And I got it, and it moved me to Los Angeles, and it started a television career that I never saw coming. And I think the lesson there is you may have an idea of what you want out of this business, but ultimately, in many cases, the business will tell you what you're going to do for it. And you better be ready to turn on a dime and jump on the train, because who knows when it's coming in, and who knows if it'll come in again. And my life changed dramatically, and then I was in LA, and I've been in LA for a long time since then, doing things that I never thought I would do.
I will say, I know people always say lucky, and lucky is definitely an important thing to be, but you're also all really talented. So just remember that that's a factor in there, you know.
I would wager to say this whole room is really talented. I'm sure we are surrounded by a lot of talented people. Thank you for coming, by the way, guys.
Yes, thank you very much.
A troublemaker named Maggie, for you, sir,
Maggie.
says, how much water did you have to make Jimmy drink on that special day to get such a great reaction?
He just
And
has
then-
a weak bladder.
Let me just say something about Jimmy Simpson. He's one of my best friends on this planet. He agreed to do this movie before there was even a script. He's also a producer on the film. He very much believed in what we were making. He very much understood why it was important to make it. He wanted to be a part of this conversation too, and he wholly embraced a role that, was not necessarily a lot of fun to play, especially right now. And I didn't have to do anything to help Jimmy Simpson because he's one of the best actors I've ever been around. And he can do it as many times as you need it. And he had to spend, a solid probably 2/3 of the movie just being scared. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to pull that off.
Exhausting.
Thrilling to watch up close too. I will say, as someone who really enjoys his work but was excited to work with him, it's very thrilling to watch up close because he stays extremely focused, but is always generous and kind and he's not one of those actors that's like so focused that they could give a shit about what you need or what you want. He's willing to ask questions. He's willing to plan things out with you, but he's also really dialed into what he's doing.
He's such a good scene partner.
Yeah, he's a really good scene partner. And
And I've been lucky to work with him many times, so we have a bit of a shorthand, and it's really necessary to pull something like this off
So quickly.
yeah.
So when you say pee, Jimmy, he's on it.
He knows it. He knows he's got to pee, and he knows he's got to pee on cue.
That's right. That's a real actor. The added part of the question is, but really, what motivated you to write this story and how timely?
Yeah, it goes back to the origin story, which was this was a story that we wanted to tell. We knew that. We didn't know exactly how we wanted it to end. That was an interesting process.
She's laughing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm not a woman.
You can be anything you want to be, James.
But it was really important to me that the message be the message that it needed to be, and I'm not the person to decide that, really. So it was a lot of pitching. It was like, what do you think if we do this? No. Okay. What if you think if we this and then this happened and then this person comes back and boom, we got it. We finally nailed it. No. Okay. And it was just a lot of pitch and catch until we finally found something that was like, oh, of course that's what we want to say. Duh. What's wrong with me? But yeah, I couldn't have done that without Jules.
We did it together. I mean, I wasn't there either. I couldn't figure it out either.
Yeah.
Took some time.
Yeah, it was just, it's a really specific, conversation that's happening right now. And you have to be sure about what you want to say, when you have a platform to say something, you got to know what you mean and what you're putting out there and, use it and use it smartly. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the biggest headline challenge was like, we're going to have a lot of fun. Horror movies are awesome. It's going to be great. We've got this incredible cast, but we also have to say something, and we got to know exactly what that is and how we want to say it. And we've figured it out, thank goodness. Pretty close to when we started.
I would say just a few days before.
I thought the moral was that goats are bad. Did I?
You nailed
is that
it,
Not
Jessie.
perfect.
You
Thank
totally
you.
get it.
But also kind of adorable.
This just adorable enough. April Sugarman wants to know, James, how has the transition been from acting to directing, and what are the biggest differences for you between TV and film?
I was so interested in directing from such an early age that I felt like my interest was performance-based and directing-based. So from the time I started acting, I was always paying attention to what the director was doing. I spent a lot of time on set. I loved asking questions. I loved listening. So the transition, when it happened officially, which was on Psych, I was just chomping at the bit. I was so ready. And sort of what Jules mentioned earlier, like you sometimes don't realize how much you already know just because you've been paying attention for so long. And then you get on set and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, I knew this. I knew that. I know this. And then you're surrounded by people that refuse to let you fail, especially on a TV show that you've been on for many years. And it's a great way to, get your feet wet. It really is. I think being an actor definitely lends itself to directing actors. There's no question about that. You know the process. You generally know that there's a bunch of different ways to come at a scene, and no one actor does it the same usually. So by knowing that, you know, this person likes to do this and this person likes to do that, and when I do it, I like to do this, I think it makes the conversation a lot easier, and I think there are so many more access points to being able to direct a scene and communicate with actors when you actually know what they do. And then as far as TV and film goes, you know, the line is so thin these days. I mean, when I first started working in this business, you know, TV and movies were like two mediums, and there was a huge chasm between them, you know?
1945?
Yeah, in the early 40s. And I think the biggest difference for me was that, TV is a writer's medium, and cinema is a director's medium. It's cinema. It's cinematic. That's why we call it cinema. And TV is a great place to tell stories. And then somewhere along the line, people started spending $70 million on TV shows, and crazy stuff started happening.
Not this one.
Not this one. And opportunities that you used to associate strictly with making movies were all over television. Mm-hmm. So now I think it's just about finding good material, finding someone to greenlight it, and then going and, quite frankly, surrounding yourself with as many talented people as you can and shooting the shit out of it. And it doesn't really matter what medium you're in anymore. It's crazy, and it's wonderful, but it definitely has changed.
It's exciting that TV has changed the way it has because it gives so many more people opportunities. And it's not like it used to be, which is if a film actor did TV, you thought, oh God, now they're on TV. They've obviously lost something. Now it's exciting, and you have people like Martin Scorsese wanting to make television. You have folks like that. That's a wonderful thing for all of us.
By the way, before we move on from Mystery Maggie, I just want to say she's an incredible actress as well. She plays Becca. She starts the movie, and it's a really, really tricky part because
Maggie didn't ask that question, but
because you don't even get to.
It is a great opportunity to bring up Maggie Lawson,
our
who
Becca
we
is
love.
in the audience tonight, and I just want to say that it's not our Maggie, but you go to a friend and you say, hey, I'm making a movie and you've worked with me for a really long time, and I want you to come sit on a picnic blanket with skid marks all over your arms and kill yourself and not speak. Will you please?
It's like, great!
Will you please do that for me? And will you please really, really, really commit to it? Because if you don't, the movie kind of doesn't work. And she said yes. And knowing that I was going to have her in the opening frame of the movie brought me a great deal of comfort, because I knew she'd crush it, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen her do before either. So just want to publicly say thank you.
We love you, Maggie. It was really fun. Yeah, we had a good day.
We will always call you Mystery Maggie now.
Mystery Maggie forever, yeah. That's now your thing. Kayla asked a similar question about do you like writing or directing better, but really you're really good at everything, unfortunately. But
writing is very hard.
Little things, you guys, you seen him?
Yeah. I love directing. I love being behind the camera. I love watching actors create. That's probably my favorite thing. Writing is hard.
Yeah.
Writing I kind of do when it's absolutely necessary. But I would say I have so much respect for people who do that for a living. Captain, it's hard.
When you do choose to write, I find James always brings a lot of comedy, no matter, or not necessarily comedy, but levity, no matter the subject matter. So to me, that is really indicative of, you can only laugh so hard until you cry. You can only cry so hard until you laugh. And these worlds are not separate. They are entwined. And James is so, so good at getting that on the page. And interestingly, a lot of it, by the time you get to an 89-page draft, has been broomed out from the 107 that it was, but you've read it so many times it lives inside of you, and you remember these moments he created and you take them with you. And I think opportunities for comedy are a really fun thing to watch when James writes.
Well, if it's unrelenting, it can be too much. If you don't have something funny and it's just torture, then that's not fun. You know, you need it.
Whole subgenre of horror called torture porn.
Yes,
that
yes, there is.
Couldn't be less interested in watching for that very reason. Yeah.
No torture porn for us. Lillian says, why did you choose the holidays as an inspiration for your horror stories?
The Into the Dark horror anthology is a series of films. Each month is loosely affiliated with a holiday. So when they came to us and said, do you have anything? I think there were 3 months open. If I recall, it was like March, June, and July. And you look at a calendar and you're like, okay, well, that narrows that down really fast. But luckily for us...
well, you had some hard no's. You had some hard no's.
International Women's Day is in March. And when we saw that...
that was a yes.
Our antennas went way, way up. So I don't know. I think it might be... I don't know how it's being marketed, to be honest. But for us, we went out and made an International Women's Day movie.
My dad asked him why he didn't just do St. Patrick's Day.
Interesting. James?
Because there's a whole franchise out there. You're not going to top Leprechaun. You can't...
But imagine this movie with leprechauns. That's the way forward.
Leprechaun cornered the market on St. Patrick's Day horror. It's done. It's finished. It's over.
Just saying, maybe there's
That's
a part
Willow.
two.
That's Willow playing Leprechaun, for God's sake. You're going to touch? You can't touch that.
Note to self, thank you. Thank you guys so much. And
Thank
you everybody
you.
for
so
coming.
much.
Thank you,
for coming up tonight. Thank you, Jessie.
So sure.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Now, what date, just before you put that down, what date is it coming out? It's March?
We got lucky. The first Friday of March is the 1st. So starting Friday, March 1st, Hulu, it's happening. Thank you, everybody.
Talk about it on
Please
social
talk about
media.
it. Post about it.
Post
We would
about
love that.
it.
Thank you.
Share the hashtag and all of it with your friends, because that's how people are going to hear that this movie's more than just a regular horror movie.
And don't sexually abuse people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.